A search party poured through the woods of Lake County, Michigan, near the Baldwin River. 13 police officers, 22 reserve officers, and over 100 volunteers lined the white pines and oak trees, looking for a man who had gone missing 48 hours prior. All hands were on deck. Teammates, coaches, a whole community joined in on the search for their hero. Camera crews and reporters from the local news were on the scene. At 7:40 p.m., they found him. The man who lay dead on the ground underneath a pine tree was Cullen Finnerty, former NFL quarterback and Division II champion. Chuck Martin, his coach at Grand Valley State, was there in the search party. He watched the lifeless body of his star quarterback be pulled from the woods, aged just 30. How did this happen?
This is the cost of glory, a forgotten NFL tragedy.
As a senior in high school, Cullen Finnerty had been named Ann Arbor News Player of the Year for his exploits at Brighton High School in 1999. At 6'2", 220 pounds, he threw the ball with accuracy, ran with authority, and even kicked field goals. Toledo was the first school to recruit the hulking quarterback, but after a redshirt season, Finnerty realized his best shot to play would be at Grand Valley State, a Division II school in western Michigan. Future Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly convinced him to become a Laker. Before his collegiate career took off, he almost tanked it. Finnerty was too aggressive, too willing to seek out contact and collisions. He played quarterback, but he did it like a linebacker. He was the only quarterback in the history of football who would want to go knock the daylights out of somebody, his coach Chuck Martin said. Everybody spends their life trying to protect their quarterback, not Finnerty. No one loved contact, the physical part of football, more than him. Finally, Martin and the rest of the coaches gave up on trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and let Finnerty play quarterback like a proto Tim Tebow. And that's when things began to click. His second year at GVSU, Finnerty was named their starting QB and never looked back. Neither did the team. That year, Finnerty led the Lakers to a Division II championship game where they would face North Dakota, the same team that had beaten them in the title game 2 years earlier. But that was before they had Cullen Finnerty. In a defensive struggle, he used his arm and his legs to keep the ball out of North Dakota's hands. The Lakers led 10-3 deep into the fourth quarter, and with under 30 seconds to go, the defense sealed the deal. Finnerty kneeled, a champion. It wouldn't be the last time. Over the next 3 years, Cullen Finnerty became a folk hero in Michigan. Children wore his number 16 jersey on Halloween. Freshmen hung on to his every word. He was the tough, charismatic leader of a college football dynasty in the making. On the field, he threw for 11,000 yards and ran for 2,000 more. He compiled 51 wins in 55 starts, won 2 more national championships as a junior and a senior, and was even named D2Football.com's Division II Player of the Decade. The success came with punishment. Finnerty dealt blows, but received just as many. On multiple occasions, he landed in the hospital after games. Once it was bleeding lungs. Other times it was the invisible injury that would end up changing so many lives. Concussions. Unfortunately, the accolades and even the 3 championships failed to land him any respect from NFL scouts. In 2007, the year of Jamarcus Russell and Brady Quinn, Cullen Finnerty went undrafted. Instead, he signed with the Baltimore Ravens as a free agent. In Baltimore, as was the case with the rest of his NFL career, Finnerty was stuck on the fringes of the roster, signed and released at his team's convenience. What worked so well at Grand Valley State failed to translate in the NFL, where players were bigger, faster, and unfazed by his physicality. Finnerty bounced around the league, spending an offseason with the Broncos before finally hopping the pond to join the Cineplex Blue Devils in Austria like the country. It was there that Finnerty won another championship for the 4th time in In a decisive game against the Swiss national team, the bruising quarterback rediscovered what made him special. He threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for another, and even nailed a field goal on his way to an 18-point victory in the title game.
Oh, it was great, man. It's my first time over Europe. All the guys are great, man. It was a lot of fun, and these past 2 days have just been a blast.
You played for Grand Valley State, and you earned some championship titles there, and then you try to make it to the NFL.
Yeah.
Baltimore Ravens, Denver Broncos,
Right.
but
European football was a far cry from the NFL, but Finnerty approached it with the same enthusiasm. It was one last moment of glory before he embarked on life after football. At age 30, Finnerty was married, a father of 2, and had just been promoted at his job in medical sales. The former folk hero, NFL washout and Austrian champion, was now a normal person, working a normal job, living in a normal house in Howell, Michigan. At times, however, his behavior was anything but normal. December 2011, near Christmas time, rather than coming home, Finnerty had driven from Detroit to his brother Tim's house in Grand Rapids, a full 150 miles away. Finnerty told his brother that he was being followed, but there was no one behind him on the road, no one to speak of, just his own paranoia. He was not himself, Tim remembered. According to his wife, Finnerty spent 5 days in a panic state, believing the FBI was following him. In addition to bouts of erratic behavior, Finnerty became unable to sleep and suffered from recurring headaches and back pain, for which he began taking oxycodone. His addiction to painkillers became so bad that he had to spend time in a rehabilitation center in 2012. Outside of specific episodes, friends and family remember a man with his head on straight, someone who could hold down a job and even thrive, though not immune from stress and the physical consequences of a tolling football career. But it was on May 6, 2013, that he reached a breaking point. Finnerty had been staying at his in-laws' cabin in Baldwin, Michigan, on the banks of the Baldwin River, where he liked to fish. Finnerty had boarded an inflatable pontoon boat around 8:30 in the evening and was supposed to be picked up downstream by his brother and father-in-law. The two of them later found Finnerty's pontoon boat and his fishing line stuck in a tree overhead. His family started to worry, calling Finnerty to figure out where he had gone. One of the phone calls was with his wife, the other with his brother-in-law. Panicked, Finnerty described running into 2 men on the river. He believed they were following him. "I don't know where I am," he told his brother-in-law. The search was officially on. Lake County officials and state police pooled their resources. Officers, family, volunteers, dogs, even helicopters left no stone unturned in the search for the former college football star. But unfortunately, it was too late.
Tragic news to report tonight. The body of former GVSU standout quarterback Cullen Finnerty has been found.
It turned out that the search was much broader than it needed to be. Finnerty was found dead on May 28th, less than a mile from where he had gone missing. His family was stunned, heartbroken. The local legend they knew as dad, husband, brother, and son was gone, and there was no explanation why. The morning after his body was found, an initial autopsy showed no evidence of foul play, no trauma, cuts, or bruises. His blood alcohol content was negligible, not enough to explain his disorientation. His lungs were slightly cloudy and his heart a bit enlarged, but nothing that could point to how he died. An updated autopsy performed later began to shine some light on what had happened. Medical examiners determined that Finnerty had inhaled his own vomit after becoming disoriented, causing him to catch pneumonia and ultimately die alone in the woods. The report from the examiners noted that Finnerty's paranoia may have been caused by a combination of oxycodone in his bloodstream as well as chronic traumatic encephalopathy, also known as CTE. CTE is the medical term that describes brain degeneration, which is likely caused by repeated head traumas common to football and other sports. It's only diagnosable by an autopsy studying sections of the brain. At this point, it's still a rare disorder that is not yet well understood, but it is believed to affect the cognitive behavior of some former NFL athletes, including Hall of Fame linebacker Junior Seau, who took his own life just a year before Cullen Finnerty's death. Finnerty's brain was sent to Boston University's Center for the Study of Traumatic Encephalopathy, where experts would study it and hopefully arrive at a more concrete answer that explained the events that led to his death. The study prompted more questions than answers. Their official statement said that Finnerty's level of CTE was moderate, not severe, and it was unlikely that the disease alone led to his death. Unfortunately, because of the complexity of his medications and medical status, the statement said, it is impossible to determine the specific combination of factors that led to his tragic death. So what accounts for the behavior that ultimately led to Cullen Finnerty's death? Could oxycodone have played a part, even though Finnerty's wife believed that he had weaned off the drug a year before his death? Could he have been genetically predisposed to anxiety and paranoia despite little evidence? Or is even moderate CTE more impactful than we're to believe? Regardless, this is something that is continually buried by the NFL and college football, where this ugly cost of glory is being swept under the rug in the hopes that maybe better technique or ignorance will make this problem go away. Cullen Finnerty played football with everything he had. He ran hard, hit hard, and sacrificed his body on the way to 3 Division II championships at Grand Valley State, and a brief career in the NFL. Was it at the cost of his life? We'll likely never know. His family is not quick to blame football for the loss of Cullen. His father bristles at the idea of blaming the sport that brought his family together and made his son a hero in Western Michigan. None of this is going to bring Cullen back, Tim Finnerty said. The only people that will know what happened will be Cullen and God.
In this game for Grand Valley, Finnerty continues with those bullet passes right on the money.